Hey, and welcome back to the channel. This is WGK's Public Safety Images, and today I'm going to do a short all-about video that is all about the Charlotte Fire Department's Fire Station 18. So without any further ado, let's go visit the Wild Wild West and Charlotte Fire Station 18.
Battalion 2, Engines, 11, 27, 7, and 22, Investigator 1, Ladder 27, and Safety 1, House Fire, 6001 Maple Street, Army, Echo, Battalion 2, Engines, 11, 27, 7.
So this look at Charlotte's Fire Station 18 will begin like a lot of my all about videos, and we will look at the history of Charlotte Fire Station 18. As I've discussed in other videos about the Charlotte Fire Department, the 1960s was a time of growth and expansion for both the city and the department. A 1964 study by the Charlotte-Mecklenburg Planning Commission found that the department's 15 stations were in good shape, however, did recommend the addition of 6 new stations to get the department ready for the coming decades. 5 of those stations would be brand new stations, and 1 would be a replacement for Station 4. Station 16 was the first of those stations to be built, and that opened in 1966, as well as the department expanding the Morris Field station, which ultimately became Fire Station 17. In 1969, the city proposed a bond referendum, and that went to vote in December of 1969. A campaign led by Charlotte Mayor John Belk touted the bond referendum as one that would benefit the people of Charlotte significantly. The bond included a variety of road and street expansions, including the interchange of Eastway Drive and Independence Boulevard, several neighborhood community centers, an uptown civic center, as well as improvements to the Coliseum on Independence Boulevard, and funds for 2 fire stations. One would be a new Northwest fire station located off of Beatty's Ford Road, and the other would be a replacement fire station for Fire Station 4. On December 12, 1969, the voters of Charlotte approved all 9 items on the bond ballot. Those items totaled $36.1 million and would be scheduled over the next 3 years. Planning for a new Northwest fire station began immediately, and in March of 1970, the city purchased a plot of land on Keller Avenue near West Charlotte High School. Just FYI, Keller Avenue was renamed in 2012 in honor of Dr. Spurgeon Weber, who was Charlotte's first African-American dentist. So the address for that station is now on Dr. Weber Drive. The cost for the station was $150,000, and it went to bids in May of 1970. The city held a groundbreaking ceremony on July 1st, 1970, and construction of the station progressed rapidly, and the station unofficially opened on December 10th, 1970, less than 1 year after the bond. The department held an official opening and dedication on December 14th, and the station went into service with Engine 18 with one of the department's older bullet nose Seagrave pumpers. However, the department ordered a new Seagrave pumper for that station that cost about $44,000. So, Engine 18's first rig was a P-Series Seagrave with a 1,500 GPM pump and a 500-gallon water tank. The photo shown is a newer photo. The truck was first delivered. It was all red. In the mid-1970s, Charlotte briefly switched over to lime green apparatus. However, by the early 1980s, the department returned to red apparatus and in fact adopted the now classic white over red livery. I believe a lot of their engines, including many of the lime green engines, were repainted with this white over red scheme. That Seagrave pumper served Engine Company 18 for about 20 years until 1992, when the department placed a new E1 Hush XL engine into service at Station 18. The E1 was one of 8 XL Hush pumpers the department bought in 91 and 92, and all but one of them had a 1500 GPM pump with a 500-gallon water tank and a 30-gallon foam tank. Engine 1's E1 actually had a 2000 GPM pump. In 1999, Engine 18 got a new American LaFrance Eagle general safety pumper that the department was moving to. That engine had a 1500 GPM pump, a 500-gallon water tank, and a 30-gallon foam tank. Then in 2008, the department purchased a Spartan Gladiator chassis Smeal build engine for Engine 18. That engine was what had become the standard Charlotte engine with a 2000 GPM pump, a 500-gallon water tank, and a 30-gallon foam tank. Engine 18's current rig is a 2019 Smeal build on a Spartan MetroStar chassis and is the standard 2000 GPM 500-gallon water, 30-gallon foam tank engine. As I've mentioned earlier in this video and several other videos, the 60s and then 70s was the beginning of the real growth period for the city of Charlotte and accordingly the Charlotte Fire Department. When Station 18 opened, it opened with the single engine company. However, as the city and department were expanding, the department began adding or relocating ladder companies, and within a few short years, Station 18 got a ladder company assigned to it. In the 1950s and 60s, the Charlotte Fire Department had ladder companies assigned at Station 5 and Station 6. In the early 1970s, and I'm unsure exactly of the year, those ladders were relocated. The ladder at Station 5 went to Station 10 and then ultimately ended up at Station 13 as Ladder 13. And the ladder at Station 6 was relocated to Station 18 and became Ladder 18. Again, I'm not exactly sure when this happened, but likely in the early 70s. And I'm unsure of what was the first rig assigned to Ladder 18, whether Ladder 6, old ladder, was relocated there, or they got one of the new Seagraves that the department purchased in the early 70s as their first truck. In the 1970s, the Charlotte Fire Department purchased 4 Seagrave ladder trucks, 2 in 1974 that were 100-foot rear mount straight stick aerials, and then 2 in 1976 that were 85-foot rear mount platforms. Ladder 18 may have operated both the straight stick and the platform at different points of time. Depending on the source of information, I have seen both the rear mount platform and the straight stick aerial listed as Ladder 18's primary truck in the 1970s and early 80s. In 1985, the Charlotte Fire Department placed 2 Pierce Arrow snorkels into service, one with Ladder 18 and one at Ladder 16. These 2 snorkels joined a 1984 duplex Grumman snorkel that was placed into service as Ladder 1, giving the department 3 snorkels in the 80s and early 90s. In 1999, Ladder 18 received a quality build on a Spartan Gladiator chassis rear mount straight stick ladder. That ladder had a 2000 GPM pump with a 300-gallon water tank, 30-gallon foam tank, and was an 85-foot straight stick aerial. That was followed by a 2004 Smeel build Spartan Gladiator, and then a similar Spartan Smeel in 2015. Most recently, in 2022, Ladder 18 became the second Charlotte ladder company to place a Spartan Smeel mid-mount platform into service. Those platforms are the 2,000 GPM pump, 300-gallon water tank, and are now designated as towers versus ladders. For more information on these mid-mount towers, you can see my video that is all about the Charlotte Fire Department's mid-mount platforms by clicking on the link. So that brings us up to date for Fire Station 18. Today, Station 18 is part of Charlotte's newest battalion, the 9th Battalion. The district covers about 6.5 square miles and encompasses an area between the Brookshire Boulevard and 77 North, up past I-85, and then up to almost Sunset Road. Station 18 service area is bounded by Station 5, Station 13, Station 25, Station 28, Station 22, and Station 11. Beatties Ford Road essentially runs from top to bottom through the center of 18's district, and the southern portion of that district closest to Uptown is older residential neighborhoods, including the University Park, Lincoln Heights, and Washington Heights neighborhoods. Just as a side note, Washington Heights neighborhood was created back in 1913 and was a streetcar suburb versus an inner city neighborhood in one of the city's original 4 wards. But without the deed restrictions of a lot of other Charlotte neighborhoods, it basically became the home for middle-class African-American residents of the city. And for my trivia fans, the Washington Heights neighborhood was named for Booker T. Washington, not George Washington. The northern half of the district, north of I-85, is a mixture of older residential communities along with some new residential development that has just started popping up in the last 10 or 20 years, along with a concentration of industrial and commercial spaces right along the I-85 corridor. The station also covers the I-85 and I-77 interchange. Engine 18 and Tower 18 are among Charlotte's busiest companies, with Engine 18 running approximately 3,200 calls a year and Tower 18 running about the same number of calls annually. That puts Engine 18 in the top 10 of busiest engine companies for Charlotte, and Tower 18 in the top 5 busiest ladder companies for Charlotte. The logo for the station, which you'll find on both companies' trucks, is the Wild Wild West. That harkens back to when the station first opened, and the area in Beatties Ford, the northwest section of the city, had become a haven for folks who were being relocated from the inner city during Charlotte's urban renewal period in the 60s and 70s. That influx of people also brought increased levels of violence, crime, and disorder to the northwest portion of the city, earning the name the Wild Wild West. One final piece of trivia for Fire Station 18 is that in 2001, when the fire department added its 6th battalion to cover the stations on the north end of the city, the 6th battalion was originally planned to be housed out of Station 18 because it was most central to those stations. However, 18 lacked the room for a battalion chief, and so Battalion 6 ended up ultimately being assigned to Station 25. So there you go. That wraps up this brief look at Fire Station 18. Hopefully you found the video interesting or enjoyable. As always, if I've made any mistakes or errors, and that sometimes does happen, please feel free to leave it in the comments, or you can always contact me directly, obviously through the comments, or email or DM me through any of my social media accounts. Otherwise, if you enjoyed the video, please consider giving it the thumbs up, and we'll just see you again in the next video. Thanks. Bye.